silver is probably as critical to the world economy as oil, because you can't make a missile without silver. You can't build the internet. Think about if you had internet issues because you didn't have enough silver, and how much business depends on the internet in terms of manufacturing, communications, all of that kind of stuff. I mean, you're talking about a threat to the global economy.
You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
And welcome. You are listening to and watching the Financial Survival Network. I'm your host, Kerry Lutz. Well, today it's kind of an off day. It's a holiday, but I guess market's still open. And man, silver hits another high. As I'm looking at it right now, 94 and change. And well, my next guest, Robert Kientz. Robert, great to have you back on the show. Man, it's unbelievable what's happening. I mean, I'm not surprised because back in May, when silver broke 32 and a half, that was when I knew it was going way higher. There was no question that, and 35 was the psychological number, but 32 and a half was the technical number. And now we're pretty close to 100. What is the nexus, the basis of this run up in silver prices from your perspective?
Yeah, there's a lot of there. Okay, so I wanted to address this a little bit from what's going on in social media. So and we'll back up a little bit. So silver has been in supply deficit for about 5 years. If you look at what the miners are putting out versus what the world uses, and people like me who are gold and silver bugs who've been reporting on this for a number of years have written articles about it and done social media about it. And for a long time, I would say there's a coming silver shortage. There's a coming silver shortage, and people, would say, yeah, we're fine. They'll just make more. And what people don't understand is most silver comes from other mines. Almost 3/4 of it comes from other mines like copper. Byproduct. So it's really hard to adjust the amounts of silver produced in mines every year to meet demand, because really these other mines, like if you look at Freeport-McMoRan, their massive mine out in Indonesia, silver is they could throw it away. It's not even a concern to them compared to what they're getting for the other metals they're pulling out of that mine. And a lot of other mines, which are mining these other metals and silver, or maybe little bits of silver and gold come out as a byproduct, they're not going to change their production schedules for, the increase in silver, because it costs them more to do it. If you're going to spend billions of more dollars worldwide to mine copper to get some silver out of the ground, who's going to pay for it would be, and plus it costs money to increase mining, and it costs capital investment. So the constraint on silver really has always been how quickly can you build up the primary silver mines, which is about 28% of silver output, and how do you buttress yourself against the fact that the world is using so much silver, because we live in a technological world and silver is used in everything, hence why the U.S. made it a critical mineral this summer. It's used in everything, Kerry. So everybody's using it, but the supply demand characteristics are not really manageable. And what we're seeing is like this realization finally of the world that 5 years into this mining shortage, and we've depleted most of the above ground stocks that sit in these big exchanges around the world, those are coming down to the point at which the whole world's figured out, oh crap, we're going to be out of silver. And to get more out of the ground, if you want to develop a new silver mine or any mine that has any gold and silver in it, sometimes it takes 5 to 10 years. It depends. A lot of these mines are in the middle of nowhere. There's no infrastructure. And it's not a matter of just somebody signing a piece of paper and the government approving it. You got to build infrastructure. You got to build roads. The investment could be billions upon billions of dollars. And, there are worldwide, overall, there's a shortage of availability to demand from output, but the amount of stockpiles we had on exchanges, thank goodness, were enough to give us a 5-year lead time. And those that were paying attention, investors or even countries like China, the United States, noticing the issue, are now jumping in it. The Trump's administration has committed $4 billion to silver specifically this year, $1.5 billion to buy silver, and $2.5 billion to rebuild the supply chain, which is good. It's probably 5 years too late to start doing this, but at least they're doing something.
Yeah, well, they got to do something, right? I mean, it is a vital metal. I mean, life as we know it, as somebody once said, would cease to exist if we didn't have silver, right?
It would, and I've gone as far as to state, and people think I'm nuts, and maybe I am, but I said silver is probably as critical to the world economy as oil, because you can't make a missile without silver. You can't build the internet. Think about if you had internet issues because you didn't have enough silver, and how much business depends on the internet in terms of manufacturing, communications, all of that kind of stuff. I mean, you're talking about a threat to the global economy. It's just become that important. And here in the U.S., you and I were talking off air before the recording. We were talking about the fact that the price of silver has quadrupled in about a little bit 2+ years. And I don't think anybody's ever seen that in that short of a time in history. I mean, if you look at the chart, it looks like a blow off. But in the United States, here's the funny thing: all of this has occurred without the U.S. retail investor getting involved. The U.S. retail investors, it's like they're oblivious. I don't know if they're chasing tech stocks or Bitcoin or paying attention to gold. They're not in it. And, I was at my friend's coin shop out in Sebastian, Florida this past week. And he just opened it a couple months ago. He's a good friend of mine. And he's executive director for Citizens for Sound Money. And, he's gotten really into gold and silver the last few years. And we're having new people come in and they're buying an ounce or two at a time. But we also, at the same time, people coming in and dropping down $5,000 bags of constitutional or junk silver. And it was funny. In Florida, if you bring jewelry in or jewelry pieces in, because of laws, the customer has to basically give a full profile to do that, because of theft and stuff. So this guy brought in this little piece of a gold chain this big, and we figured out it was worth about $40. It was a 14 karat, you figure all that out. And so for $40, this guy sat there and answered a 20-minute questionnaire. People are selling
shop regs, right?
Yeah, it's for any coin dealer or pawn shop in Florida. You have to fill out this government website, and because of theft and things, and they just want to make sure that people aren't pawning off. So anyway, we give him his $40, and I looked at Daniel and I was like, that guy just sat there for 20 minutes and answered a questionnaire for $40. People are still selling in the U.S. They need money because of inflation is killing them. And they're selling,
right,
whatever they got. And so we're at $95 silver without U.S. retail even getting involved. And I'm wondering if we actually officially run out of silver before U.S. retail pays attention. I mean, is the price going to be $200 an ounce, or what's going to happen? It's the weirdest market. It's not like 2008, 2011.
No, nothing like that at all. Plus the gold to silver ratio. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, right now it's sitting at 49, a little over 49 to 1. And it wasn't that long ago, it was sitting at 100 to 1. So silver's beating gold in terms of return. Well, this is kind of normal because gold will go first before silver typically. And the signs were there earlier this year when you saw people getting into SLV, which is a silver ETF. That's a sign that there's some interest, but people aren't going to buy the physical. And then you saw the premiums on American Silver Eagles, which is the most popular coin. And the Mint purposely limits those. They really shouldn't by law, but they do. And then I thought, okay, silver's, going to start becoming a little bit more popular. And it has, but we're not sitting in a retail silver boom yet.
They're doing ETFs, man. They're not really buying the physical stuff, right?
They're not yet. And it's encouraging, but it's also, I'm thinking, where's the price going to go? Years ago, I did an interview at New Orleans Investment Conference with David Morgan. We sat out and I did an interview for my channel. And I said, ultimately, if you look at the debt printing and all that, what could gold, silver be? And when it came to silver, he said $600 an ounce. And I said, David, do you ever think that we'll ever actually get there, or that they'll allow it to get there because it's so important to the world economy? They may not want to put like a circuit breaker on that. You know what I mean? Like they do on the stock market. And Rostin Benham, who is the CFTC commissioner at the time a few years ago, said he did. They limited silver at $30, but they didn't let it rise. And he came out at Boca V and said it because, yeah, it's too important to the world economy. So I don't know if we're ever going to get to $600 silver. I don't have a clue, but just looking at its importance to the and this is just the industrial. We haven't even gotten to the monetary demand yet, at least not in the U.S. I mean, I don't know where it's going to go. It's exciting, it's fun, and I'm happy for all those silver stackers for the last 20 years who've been grumbling about silver sitting at anywhere from $11 to $20 and bouncing back around that for 20 years.
So, for retail, if you go to sell your silver and you have 40% or 90%, they're giving you under spot, and yet in China, it's over $100 an ounce.
Yeah, here in the U.S., I a lot of times will buy scrap gold and silver because we turn it into coins and bars for kinesis. It's one of our areas of supply, right? We work in all areas of the market, and I can buy it under spot, wholesale under spot, the constitutional stuff. And a lot of the 3/9, the bars and stuff, it's risen lately, but it was cheaper. Now I think a lot of the big sites are listing coins and bars,
Yeah.
wholesale $3 over spot, retail $7-8 over spot. But that's just happened in the last week.
Yeah, I knew it was going to happen. Which is why things like war nickels turned out to be asymmetric plays, because 3 weeks ago you could buy them 20 to 30% under melt, right?
Yeah.
And soon they'll be trading at a premium like everything else, because we're talking about shortages here. We're physical shortages. We're not talking about paper. We're not talking about, temporary dislocations here. It's demand driven. Yeah, there's certainly a monetary aspect to it to some extent, but fundamentally, this is a demand driven increase, right?
It is. And again, without U.S. retail participating, and it's okay, people are talking about, is the COMEX broken? And I have to explain this for just a minute. Where your spot price comes from is this paper market, and it's traded, up back east, as we say, in the financial markets. And that trade is what determines spot price, but it's a gamble on what silver is going to be 2 to 3 months in the future. It's a futures market. You buy a contract 3 or 4 months in the future, and depending on what happens, you either make money or lose money. And a lot of big banks are in on this, and that has really controlled the spot price for a long time. And it wasn't a function of physical demand, whether it be monetary or a need for silver in our industry. And people say, well, could it break and could the COMEX shut down? No, because the way that the COMEX trades is they have liquidation and forced cash settlement, to where they don't. It's not really a delivery market, and
it's a hedge market. It's a hedge market. That's what it is.
It's a hedge, and to some extent like a gambling casino, much like the stock market can be. I mean, there are people that bid up prices of stocks all the time. You know how that works. But, so that's not going to hard break or default. And it didn't need to for silver to go to 95. And so I'm trying to get people's eyes off of that market and say, that's not, that's not the focus. The focus now is that silver and gold are trading more to their physical supply and demand. And that switch is leading those markets. And that's a good thing. I would even say, if we talk about gold here for a minute, that gold, in mid 2024, about July, August timeframe, gold had been trading from 2020 to 2024 almost in line with the CPI, with some exceptions. But if you chart it out to CPI, which is the government version of inflation, gold is pretty close. And it broke away in mid 2024, broke away from the dollar, it broke away from oil, it broke away from all commodities and inflation. And gold, I think things are being traded in gold now. I think gold is the new, not the official monetary asset of the world, but the unofficial monetary asset. The central banks have it, Basel III, all that kind of stuff. They've capitalized the central banks with tons of gold. There was more gold bought by central banks in 2025 than any time in history. And that's been going on since 2011. And so gold has separated, and it's becoming a monetary asset, and things are going to be measured in gold. So when you look at what's gold value, it doesn't really matter looking at it in terms of the dollar. It's what is it to oil? What is it to, other things that we use? And silver hasn't quite entered that phase yet, the monetary phase, but if it gets down to, like, say, a 15 to 20 to 1 ratio gold to silver, and silver rises that high, now we're going to be talking about silver as like a monetary asset. And I don't think that's too far away, maybe a year or two away from, maybe even sooner, who knows? The run we've been on has been astounding. And I think retail's coming soon because you've seen TD Securities and Bank of America start talking about it. It's starting, just very early stages of it starting to be talked about in the financial media, but very early stages. We're not in a bubble for sure.
Well, my most profitable investment, and I'm like embarrassed to say it, well, not really, but is AGQ, the double leveraged ETF. Even though I believe that ETFs are just money furnaces in general, when you catch a trend on a double leveraged ETF, it's rocket fuel.
Yeah, and the funny thing is there's a triple short of silver, and you should see that chart. It's the exact opposite. It's probably somewhat close to zero at this point. I feel sorry for people that have put money into that one.
Yeah, well, if it's part of a hedging strategy, you might be able to justify it. But, I think there was a triple upside silver ETF, but I didn't trust that one. It wasn't liquid enough. Probably is now.
Yeah.
But then you just take your profits from your ETF and buy the physical, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's what smart people do. The ETFs aren't going to give you the silver the way that their prospectuses are written. You're not going to get access to it. You have to be one of the big market makers, and the market makers, they only have access to it because they have to supply the silver to back up the trade. So it's not a retail silver play. You can get price exposure, but personally, if we're going into real shortages of silver, I'd rather have the physical because you can just go down and sell it at your coin shop or whatever the case may be when you want the money. Yeah.
Or, it's so interesting. Silver is fascinating. You're a little younger than me, Rob, but I remember when they demonetized silver, the final demonetization in 1965. And my good friend David Morgan referred to it for the first time I ever heard as Johnson slugs. And I wrote an article. The reason they kept 40% silver in Kennedy half dollars? Was the money? This is why I love these little anomalous coins. The reason they did it was because the 64s, that was the last year they were 90% silver. None of them hit circulation. They were all hoarded. Everybody, because it was a memento of President Kennedy, who was so loved by many in the country for whatever reasons. We don't talk politics here. This is a family show. But then they demonetize the coinage. They take the silver out in 65, but they said, we can't take it out of the Kennedys because that'll be cheapening Kennedy's image. So 40% was the lowest amount they could keep in, that it would still ring, sound like silver, still look like silver until it oxidizes, where, when a 40% silver dollar oxidizes, half dollar rather, oxidizes, it looks nothing like a 90% half dollar, right? Totally different patterns of oxidation. And I just found that fascinating. The other thing I love is 40% Eisenhower dollars, which were parts of proof sets sold by the mint, but it's an anomaly. And the same, there's actually 1976 S 40% quarters, because that's from the bicentennial mint set, the proof and uncirculated sets that were sold by the mint. So you have these anomalous things. To me, it's like a war nickel, which is 35% silver. There's 80% of the silver in a war nickel as there is in a pre-1965 dime. And yet one is a nickel and the other is a dime. It's anomalous, but it happened during World War II because there was a shortage of nickel. And the only way they could keep the weight consistent with for vending machines and parking meters and such was to mix in some silver and manganese. They had to really, metallurgically figure that. I don't know. Anyway, it's just my little quirk. I love anomalies, things that exist that shouldn't exist, and yet here they are.
Mm. Yeah, it's a fascinating market, and it's fascinating how silver was such an abundance during the war, and it was nickel, and now we're turning around and it's silver's just a changed world, and silver's become so important. One other thing I wanted to point out to people is the U.S. Mint um, had a 1 to 2 month lead time on new American Silver Eagle production, and it's the most popular coin because it
Sure.
represents America. So Americans are going to buy American coins, right?
No taxes on it. Also, no gains tax. Um, there's a whole host of reasons why Americans prefer to hold them.
Yeah, and so the U.S. Mint is supposed to, by law, and there's a section of law where it says that they're supposed to produce these silver eagles as much as people want. And a couple of years ago, Vic Swear, who has a channel, who was interviewing Road to Rio, was interviewing the guy that ran the Mint and developed the Silver Eagle program. He was there 35 years. He was still there at the time in the interview. I don't know if he still is.
I can remember this. Yeah.
And the guy said, my bosses came to me and said, how many can we produce without people crying about there not being enough so that we can ship production to these proof coins? And the reason they wanted proof coins was to make money. So the proofs sell sometimes 2 to 3 more, depending on the quality and all that kind of stuff. Well, they're not supposed to do that. It's not legal. But they did anyway because US Mint, wanted to make money. It had different leadership in there, and they were running it like a business instead of... Anyway, long story short, now the U.S. Mint is saying they have a 1 to 2 month lead time before new Eagles, and they're not out of silver. They can get silver. Sunshine Mint can get them more silver if they need it.
Legends, yeah.
But they've limited, and then they've released their proof series, and they're twice as much. And so I just want people to know that there will be a time at which you will be able to see new American Silver Eagle, the regular ones, come out at the regular prices, that this isn't the end of American Silver Eagles, and that the Mint has basically shifted production to the proofs, to make the money. But if you see American Silver Eagle that's either a proof or it's in a slab, it's a graded coin, and it's trading for $180, that's not the new price of the American Silver. New people getting into this are being told this on social media, and that's not true. Yeah, now you can buy those. There is a secondary market for collectible Silver Eagle graded or proof coins. But just be aware if they don't hold the same value. I used to run a shop and people would bring these into me and it may be worth 75 and I'd pay them 50 to 60 and they'd say, why? And I said, because that market moves around so much, it's a risk to me to buy.
Volatility.
Yeah, because it's all collectible value and it's not a 1933 gold coin or one of these old coins, which is limited. They can make as many as they want. So just so people understand, if you go to the U.S. Mint's website, they're only going to have the more expensive ones right now. They are collectible, what I call semi-collectible. And it's collectible only in as much as the original price that the Mint wants to issue it. But since they can make as many as they want, it's not necessarily going to hold that value. So if you want American Silver Eagles, see if you can get the regular unslabbed, unproof ones first. And if you can't, and I recommend to people buy other sovereign coins like the Maple Leafs, which are also very good coins. But they're, again, the great thing about this market, Carrie, is we have a lot of new people getting involved, but there's also a lot of misinformation. So I just want people, if you're getting in social media and you're seeing this, just be careful with what you're seeing out there and be careful of what you're buying and what price you're buying it at.
I never bought a mint or a proof set in my life. Okay. But 3 months ago on eBay, there anomaly formed where people were selling proofs 1999 through 2008. And the melt value was actually greater than the price they were asking for the proofs.
Oh, wow.
Because silver had shot up. But
so much.
People put them on revolving sale. And, it might only be 5 to 10% less. But then when you added in the face value of the non-silver coins, you were up like 10, 12% on some of them. So I bought 3 or 4 sets. I never bought a mint proof in my life because it's basically, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, it becomes valuable. But right now, it's not. And, and to me, I'm into the content. I'm into the weight. I'm not into the, collectability of it because that comes and goes. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sure does. Collectible coins at times can do very well. I would say if you're going to do collectible coins first, you have to read a lot. Please read, buy a book, buy a collector's book, and get yourself educated before you ever buy one. But the best collectibles I ever bought were pre-1933 gold coins because they were the money of the realm. They were limited in quantity, and if you bought something that was graded slabbed by a professional grader and it was rare, it would hold its value. And I did very well on those. I made a really nice profit when I sold it years later.
Yeah.
But not all areas of that market are like that. Just be careful with the collector's market. Now that prices are up, you're going to see those collector's coins come out. People are trying to sell them to you. There's a reason why. So just be aware of that.
Yeah, agreed. All right. Well, hey, so when we have this conversation, we talk in 3-6 months. What's your expectation for the silver price?
Well, there's so many factors going on. I'm going to hedge it a bit. I did a video where $150 silver this year. The only thing that could stop that is, even though the physical market is starting to take over, the derivative prices still have an impact. So if we go into like a stock market swoon, whenever we go in the next recession,
Liquidation.
Yeah, liquidation of those contracts and the price will come down. So just expect, at least at some point, we're going to have a correction. Excuse me. And that's true in all markets. Markets don't go straight up forever. So expect that there will be a correction. It may be 15, 20%, 30% correction. I don't think it's permanent because of the demand for the physical. But just know that when you buy it now, maybe it goes to 150, maybe it goes to 200, but at some point it's going to pull back. So just be aware as you're buying it, as you're getting in and buying up, dollar cost average your way in. Understand that you can't call the peak. Nobody's really good at calling the tops, or they're not necessarily good at calling how long you're going to be in a pullback. There are millions of people trading these markets, but just expect it's going to happen. But I said on my video, if we don't hit $150 silver in 2026, I would be absolutely shocked.
Yeah, well, one thing I'm seeing here in this market, and I know you follow it like me, after you have a big increase, like today we have $4.50, and last week, I think it was Wednesday, we had 5. Then they instantly get slammed on COMEX. Instantly, right? I mean, we're not imagining this. It happens. But the rebound from the COMEX slam is so quick now. It used to take months when we had a major slam, or even weeks. Then it went to days. Now it's almost hours, Rob.
It's hours. That's exactly right. And the silver trains, it's left the depot. To get enough especially if we go to more wars, because wars just multiply the need for silver. There are hundreds of ounces used in missiles, and we don't know the exact amount, but I've seen various estimates. And
I've heard 80 for a cruise missile. I've studied it. It's actually in the batteries, but I've heard as much as 700-800. I think it's closer to 80, but 80 is still that's a lot of that's $8,000 almost of silver that just vaporizes into thin air.
It does, and it's used in all their communication equipment. So silver, I think at this point, is going to be impervious to a recession.
It's in this. It's in this.
Yeah.
Well, every piece of equipment on my desk here, it's
used in medicine. It's used. My girlfriend's a nurse, and she's like, all the Band-Aids we use in the hospital and the wraps are all infused with silver because they're antimicrobial. So, silver is used in everything. It's indispensable. So we're never going to see $20 silver again in my lifetime, I don't think. I mean, it's possible that they find a big new trove somewhere and they mine it. I just doubt it.
Ocean mining is really the only thing. I mean, well, let's not even talk about mining. Anyway, Rob, tell us the best place to find your work, how to connect with you on the web.
Just go to the Freedom Report on social. So I'm on Substack, Twitter, and YouTube. Just look up the Freedom Report and you'll find me.
All right. Hey, I'm on Substack too. Best move I ever made. It totally got rid of the need to have a website, updates. I mean, my website was costing me thousands of dollars a month, Webmaster, and now Substack does it all. I'm on there as well. I will recommend you. You recommend me. And let's get some subs. I'm up to I was over 50,000 subs, a little bit under right now. I mean, the community's huge. It's just the best thing. I can't say enough good things about it. And your work as well. We will talk to you again soon. If you got a question or comment for Rob, shoot me an email, kl@kerrylutz.com. Rob, we'll talk to you in a few months and see where this thing goes.
All right, sounds good.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.